Welcome to the Real Estate Way to Wealth and Freedom podcast with Jacob Ayers, providing actionable content to help you along your journey to financial freedom through real estate investing. As the premier asset class, real estate has helped ordinary people just like you amass fortunes. The benefits of passive income from real estate investing will allow you to live a life you want. And now your host, entrepreneur, real estate investor, and apartment deal syndicator, Jacob Ayers.
Hi, and welcome to the Real Estate Way to Wealth and Freedom podcast, episode 135. Today, our guest is Larry Goins. Larry is a longtime real estate investor, having bought his very first real estate investment property over 30 years ago. Well, with that much experience, Larry brings so much wisdom and advice on how to buy your very first real estate investment property using maybe one of my favorite strategies, which is seller financing. What I like most, though, is Larry describes being a real estate investor as a problem solver and using many tools in your tool bag to solve those problems. So we're going to get more into that in the episode. So without further ado, let's jump into today's conversation. All right, today, welcome on the show, Larry Goins. Hey, Larry, thanks so much for joining us.
What's going on, man? How you been?
Hey, doing well. How about yourself?
Man, I am doing awesome. Just having fun and making money.
I love it. Well, hey, Larry, did you tell the audience members a little bit about yourself, how you got started investing in real estate, and kind of your journey up to this point?
Yeah, man. Hey, my very first deal was 30 years ago. I've been doing deals over 30 years. I did my first deal in 1986. It was actually an FHA, non-qualifying assumable loan, believe it or not, right?
Yeah, awesome.
And I did that deal a long time ago. But you name it, I've done it. I've done wholesaling, landlording, lease options, subject to, short sales, all kind of stuff, right? Commercial, residential, triple net lease. I'm on mobile home parks. I've bought and sold notes. I've created notes, seller financing, all kind of stuff.
Yeah. So when you've been in the game for 30 years, like you have, you see a lot of things. So yeah, lots of broad experience there. And I know you've got a ton of experience helping newer investors get into this game and help people kind of get that first deal. So I kind of want to talk about that today. You know, we've got a younger audience out there, Larry, and a lot of people looking to get that first deal. But, you know, as you can imagine, in a lot of markets today, it's pretty hard to do that. You know, lots of hurdles and obstacles to overcome. So, you know, what advice would you have out there to maybe that first time investor, you know, getting that first deal? What kind of advice, actionable content, tips would you have for somebody like that?
Well, you know, I've actually got I've got some partner students in my office this week for they come to my office and spend 3 days with me, and you know, and they paid a lot of money to be there, right? And some of them have been studying real estate for years. I'm talking 5 years, 10 years, never done a deal. So I bet at least 5 times this week I have said, write this down: ready, fire, aim. Right?
Fire, aim. Okay.
Yeah. Ready, fire, aim. Because there's nothing going to be perfect when you start it. It's like one guy said, you know, if you start out on a trip from San Diego to Houston, Texas, you don't start out and wait to start out until all the lights are green, right?
Yeah. I like
you got to
that.
start right from where you are. You can't wait for all the lights to get green. You got to do the best you can. You're going to make some mistakes. It's going to happen. But the key is just to get started and take action and do the best you can and find somebody that you know, like, and trust that you can latch on to, like all of your listeners, right? I mean, they like you, they trust you, they're listening to you. You bring on people like myself and other people, and they can learn from all of us, right? And there's plenty of information out there. If you're in a situation where you're not really sure what to do, there's plenty of information out there, whether it's online, where you hire a coach or mentor or whatever.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Larry, let's kind of go back to some of your experience. So you bought that very first house with that FHA assumable loan at the time, which was a thing, when you first got started in this industry. What came after that, and how'd you grow your portfolio from there?
Well, basically, I've done a lot of different kinds of real estate, right? There's only really a few things about real estate I hate. I hate tenants, okay? I know you don't want to hear that, right? But I hate tenants, all right? And I hate rehabs and I hate short sales. Those are the only three things about real estate that I hate. Now, I have tenants, but my tenants own businesses, or if they're residential tenants, they actually do lease options, right? Or seller financing. So I have people that pay cash flow, but they're not just straight up tenants, right? They're what I call homeowners in training. So I've done, and I still do quite a bit of wholesaling, right? A lot of wholesaling. And I will tell you, wholesaling is probably one of the quickest ways there is to get started. I also have another method I call filthy riches, which we have a lot of people that are brand new, never done a deal before, and they're able to do their first deal with that method. However, wholesaling is probably the quickest way to get them started. But even with wholesaling, when you're making the phone ring, you've got to know how to put a deal together, because not every deal is going to be buy it at 70% of after repaired value minus repairs, closing cost, and your profit. Not every deal is going to be that. I just bought a deal. We just sold it today, actually. Well, we got a contract to sell it today. I got a deal last Thursday. Check this out. This guy calls from some of my marketing, right? I do about 25,000 pieces a month in direct mail. Okay, so he called, and our lead manager teed it up for me, and we were about $20,000 apart. He wanted $82,000 for it, and I wanted to pay him about $60,000, right? So he happened to mention to me 3 or 4 times, Jacob, that I don't need the money. I don't need the money. I don't need the money. So here's what I told him. I said, well, you've mentioned to me a few times you don't need the money.
Yeah.
I said, here's something that I've helped other people with many times in the past. Since you don't need the money and you're going to have a huge tax bill when you sell this property, how about if you finance the property for me, right? You're going to get interest on your money. It's going to be secured by your house, and you'll be able to take what's called the installment sale, and you'll only pay taxes on the money in the year you receive it. So if the payment is $500 a month, that's $6,000 a year. You're only paying taxes on $6,000 a year instead of the whole $82,000. And that way I can give you what you want for the property. And he said, well, Larry, I kind of like the sound of that. He said, how much would the payment be? I said, well, let's take a look. Let's see what an $82,000 payment would be at the market rate. I said, what's the market interest rates? I said, it's probably in the 4s. He said, my son's getting a loan right now. He says it's going to be close to 5. I said, okay, 5% is good. So I figured a payment, 5% interest, $82,000. I never mentioned the word down payment. I never said the word down payment. Right?
Now we're working, yeah.
Right. So the payment on $82,000 at 5% for 20 years is $541, right?
Okay.
So I said we could get you $541, and and that way it's going to help you out on your tax bill. Plus, you won't have to worry about if you rent it out, tenants, trash, toilets, and termites, right? So he said, I like the sound of that. So we FedExed him the contract with a returned FedEx envelope, right? Actually, this is a little bit on human nature and on building a rapport. He's retired from UPS. So instead of FedExing him the paperwork, we UPS'd him the paperwork, right?
There you go. Okay.
He even said, hey, Larry, I really appreciate you using UPS. I'm retired from there. They pay my pension, and I really appreciate you using the company, right? So we sent it. He sent it back. We went and looked at the property, and we already have it sold for $99,900 with $18,000 down, right? All I'm going to do is assign my contract. The buyer's going to step into my place, and they're going to buy the property, and they're going to do a little work to it, and then they're going to lease it out. And they've got non-bank qualifying bank interest rate financing at 80% loan to value. You can't get that anywhere. So all I did was wholesale a seller finance deal. That's all I did. So I'm going to make $18,000 on it, right? My buyer's paying the closing cost,
Right.
and I'm going to walk away with 18 grand net. Now, if I had been stuck on, I can only pay you $60,000 for it, right?
Right.
I wouldn't have another closing coming up in the next 3 weeks that I'm making 18 grand on.
Might have not had that first deal to begin with.
Right. Exactly. So the key is, number one, you got to take action. Number two, you got to have as many tools in your toolbox as possible so you know how to put together a deal that other people would throw away as a dead lead.
Yeah, well, some of the listeners out there, Larry, might be thinking, well, come on, Larry, I thought you were going to tell me how to get my first deal in my market. There's no way that's going to work. Nobody's, motivated to sell me a property on seller financing. But there are a surprising number of people who are willing to do this strategy. So how are you finding these properties and particularly these owners?
Well, we do a lot of marketing. We make the phone ring. Our phone rings on Mondays. Every Monday, our phone rings about 300 times. On Tuesday, it rings about 200 times. On Wednesday, it rings about 100 times, and then 50, 25, whatever. And then Monday, it starts all over again, right?
Yeah, okay.
So we get a ton of calls, and they all go through a lead manager. And then the lead manager takes the calls. They set it up. And then I get on the phone with them or one of my other acquisition managers, and we negotiate the deal.
Yeah. Okay. So essentially, let's kind of break down this strategy of, buying seller financing just to break it down and, really put some numbers to it. So you're going to go to this owner and have them carry the note, meaning you may not even in this scenario actually have to put down a down payment. But what that allows you to do is free up some of your capital to do more deals. You don't have to go to the bank, and you kind of get that velocity of your money working really quickly, right? So all of a sudden you've bought and sold a house within, maybe 90 days here, very quickly. So, what are some other benefits of, doing this seller financing model that you can think of?
Well, that's a great question. I have a model called Filthy Riches, and it's all about buying cheap houses and then selling them for 3 to 6 times what you paid. For example, I've bought a lot of houses for $3, $4, $5, $10,000, and one of the reasons that so many people love this model is there's people out there, like you said, there's a lot of people out there that are brand new, they're young, maybe they don't have a lot of money to work with, but heck, you can put a $5,000 house on a credit card, right?
Yeah, in theory you can.
So think about this. If you bought a house for $5 grand, you turn around and sell it for 30 grand with owner financing as is. We don't touch it. We don't rehab it. You sell it for 30 grand, you get a couple $1,000s down. You're going to finance 28,000, 9% interest for 10 years. Your payment's going to be $364.92 a month, right?
Why did you just do that?
Well, I've done a lot of them, right? I've done a lot of them. So, your payment's going to be, just under $400 a month. And then you've got a $28,000 asset bringing you in $364 a month. And look, I'm not dealing with tenants. They're buying the house. So they're paying taxes, insurance, repairs, and maintenance, right? I don't pay any of that. That's net to me. And I only have $3,000 in it. And think about it. If I'm bringing in $4,200 a year, that's over 100% return. Actually, it's 144% return, or maybe it's 141. I can't remember. But it's 140% return on your money. Is that sweet or what?
Yeah. Now we're really talking here. So, you can see why this seller financing model is really appealing. Now, Larry, in my personal, endeavors of real estate investing, I find that, this is always my go-to, my very first tool I'm going to pull out of my tool belt, like you kind of alluded to earlier. But I find that it doesn't always work. Sometimes the seller really does want, their cash up front payment, and maybe they're going to buy another house. So, what would be the second tool in your tool belt if this strategy doesn't really, work for that seller?
Well, I'm going to make an all cash as is offer, and I'm going to tell them, look, you don't have to fix up the house. You don't have to do any repairs, no more maintenance. You can forget about paying taxes, upkeep, lawn care, all that. The advantage of working with somebody like me, and I say whether it's me or any other investor, because I want them to lump investors into one category, right? And I do that because I don't want them to think, well, Larry, you're an investor and you only offer me this, so I'm going to call the next investor. Maybe they'll offer me more. So I tell them, when you sell your house to an investor, whether it's me or anybody else, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's really subtle, but yeah, I like how you work that in there.
Yeah, yeah. So, you don't have to pay taxes, insurance, repairs, maintenance, none of that other stuff. I'll pay you all cash. I'll buy it in its as-is condition. You don't have to deal with fixing your property up and showing it for 6 to 12 months, hoping you find that one buyer that loves your house, loves the neighborhood, loves the way it's fixed up, and then you hope they can qualify for a mortgage, right?
Yeah.
And then you hope the inspection comes in and they don't ask you to make a bunch of repairs, additional repairs from the inspection, and nickel and dime you to death. Basically by working with me or any other investor, you can have your money in less than 30 days.
Yeah, I love it. So that allows you to, get into this property, and then you've got a multitude of exit strategies on the back end. You can go out and,
Sure.
do the seller financing on the back end. You can just wholesale it to another investor. You could flip
Absolutely.
it. You can hold it for a rental. So yeah, it's like, I love the tool belt analogy you made earlier in the show. You've got all these tools, the first one, if it works for the seller, great. If not, reach in the bag, get another tool, and then the same thing on the other side of it, renting it out, selling it, flipping it, whatever you're going to do. So yeah, really cool. So let's talk about that Filthy Riches program that you mentioned earlier. Let's dig into that. What exactly does that look like?
Well, I teach people how to buy houses anywhere from $1,500 up to $50,000 and sell them for 3 to 6 times what they paid and get returns anywhere from in the 40s, like 43, 48%, up to 788% return on your money. And you're basically buying dirt cheap properties nobody else wants, and then you're turning around and selling them with owner financing to either an investor that wants to be a landlord because they're going to do a little bit of work to it and put a tenant in it, or you're selling it to a person that wants to fix it up and move into it, right? Like a first-time home buyer. And you can do them either with a lease option or a land contract or a mortgage or deed of trust. Now, I know you're in the state of Texas. They don't allow land contracts more than 6 months in Texas. So what you do is you do a 6-month rental agreement, then a 6-month land or lease option, and then you convert it to a mortgage if they stick. Because most of them, if they're going to default, they're going to default within the first 12 months.
Yeah.
Every other state, we do a 12-month lease option, and then if they stick, we'll convert them to a land contract.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Larry, there's some people out there in our more expensive markets across the nation, like Seattle and Denver and Austin and places like that, are going, Larry, there are no $1,500 houses in my market. There are no $50,000 houses in my market. Is this a model that people can make work outside of their market, investing remotely?
That's a great question. I'm glad you brought that up because the majority of our students are actually doing this model remote. Some of our most successful students live on the West Coast where the prices look like phone numbers. And they're buying foreign phone numbers, right?
Yes.
And they're buying in areas like Alabama, Georgia, the Carolinas, Arkansas, Kentucky, Missouri, Ohio, Pennsylvania. All those areas have plenty of properties. And we're not looking for a $1,500 house. We're not looking for a $5,000 house, because if you go looking for a $5,000 house, it's a blower upper, not a fixer upper. What we're looking for are houses that might be listed for $20,000, and we're going to pick them up for $5,000 or $10,000, right? We're going to get them at a discount, and not many people are looking for these kind of houses. So they sit on the market a lot longer than every other type of property because there's not as many buyers out there for them. So we go in and scoop them up. And don't get me wrong, I'm making it sound simple. Or I'm making it sound easy. It's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. But if you can be diligent about it and you can make offers, then you can get some of these deals and you can earn huge returns. And the cool thing is, doing this model, you don't even have to use your own money. In fact, I'll finance a deal for you. I finance a lot of Filthy Rich's deals for Filthy Rich's students, and they don't even have to come up with the money. And I'll do it with no interest. I just charge a flat $1,500 underwriting fee, and then I help them do the deal. I help them put the deal together, and they find the deal. I underwrite the deal, make sure it's a good deal, and we're both going to make money. And I charge them a $1,500 underwriting fee, and I'll fund the deal, and then they buy it, sell it, and sell their note to pay me off. And they pay me my $1,500, and then they cash out on the profit.
Yeah, it's a really cool model. And something you brought up, I want to dig into a little deeper is, the logistics of this. Let's kind of walk us through maybe some of the processes and systems and procedures, that work well and you have set up for, doing this model out of state.
That's a great question. We buy a lot of HUD houses. I wrote a book called HUD Homes Half Off, How to Buy HUD Houses for Pennies on the Dollar. And we still buy a lot of HUD houses. I'm buying them all over the Carolinas. We still do about 3 to 5 HUD houses a month. Even in today's market, when there's not near as many HUD houses on the market as there used to be, right? But with HUD, you can go wide, especially if you're doing this Filthy Riches model, where you can be sitting in Houston, Texas, or in Oregon, or in California, or in Denver, Colorado. You can be bidding on HUD houses in Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, the Carolinas, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and you're shotgunning it, and you're bidding on a lot of properties, and it's very easy to do because all bids for HUD houses are done online on a computer, right?
Yeah.
So it's a pretty simple process.
So these are essentially foreclosure properties that the government has foreclosed on. And now once you get this house under contract, what's the next step from there?
Well, once you get it under contract, immediately we send somebody out, even if it's 5 states away, you send somebody out to take pictures. They're going to take about 50 pictures. Every room, any mechanical items, any repair areas, all 4 sides of the house, any outbuildings or garages, and a street view both ways, right? And then when we get those pictures, we're going to start marketing the property right away, right? We start marketing the property, why rent when you can own? Payments less than rent, payments to fit your budget. We're looking for a deserving family with a reasonable down payment, second chance opportunity to own a home. Stop throwing your money away on rent. And the phone rings off the hook, right? And then when we find a buyer, then we send them to what's called an RMLO, Residential Mortgage Loan Officer, to originate the loan. That just keeps us in compliance with Dodd-Frank. And they'll underwrite the loan and make sure the person has what's called the ability to pay. They figure out their bills and their income and make sure they have the ability to pay. And then we close the deal, and we either sell the note or keep the note or whatever. You can do these in your retirement account too, which is another pretty cool thing.
Yeah. Okay. And this thing is, what I like about this model is it's pretty scalable, and the remote aspect is really cool too. You don't have to go out there and touch the property, fix it up. You're kind of removing the old tenants, termites, toilets kind of aspect of real estate investing. So yeah, it's a really appealing model. And I think maybe the most important thing is you can get started for very low entries. So, that's a really cool thing for, the audience members out there who haven't yet got that first deal under contract. So yeah, really cool stuff there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, there is a very low barrier to entry with this. I've seen more people do their very first deal with this model than I have any other model. And I know wholesaling is typically the way most people get started, but I've seen more people do their first deal with this model than anything else.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Larry, it's been a real cool conversation. As we're wrapping up here, we've got a lightning round. We ask every one of our guests. Are you up for it?
Sure, man. Let's do it.
All right, cool. Well, the very first question we have is, what was your biggest hurdle getting started investing in real estate? And then what'd you do to overcome that?
I thought I had to know everything before I ever got started. And once I found somebody else that was doing the same thing, I just jumped in and started doing it. I started making offers, and I did my first deal. Your first deal gives you all the confidence you need to move forward. So the bottom line is just go out there and do it. Just take action.
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely. Well, Larry, do you have a personal habit that contributes to your success?
I think you need to have balance, right? I think you need to have balance. You've got to be physically fit. I try to run 3 to 5 days a week. And also you got to be spiritually fit. You've got to have some personal development, some growth. I try to read at least one book every week or two. I used to be able to do it every week, but with a lot going on, it's about every week or two I try to read a book. So there's so many great books out there, but I don't read anymore. I listen to books on Audible. I love Audible because you can listen to an 8-hour book in 4 to 6 hours at 1.5 to 2
I
times
do that
speed.
all the time. Yes. Yeah.
So I love it. I love it. Actually, studies have shown that you comprehend more as well. And then you also have to be perfecting your craft. You also have to be learning. If you want to learn real estate, then you got to invest in your education. I've had people come to my office looking for a job and they say, I've been wanting to get into real estate for 10 years. First thing I ask them is, well, what have you done about it? What education? Well, I've watched a couple of YouTube videos and I watched Flip This House on TV.
Yeah.
No, they're not serious about it, right?
Yeah, sure.
They're not serious about it. So you've got to invest in yourself. The the most important piece of real estate you'll ever invest in is the 6 inches between your ears.
I love it. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, really cool there. Well, Larry, do you have an online resource that you find valuable?
Online resource, man, there's so many of them. So many of them. There's so many apps. There's so many online resources. I mean, I love Zillow. We pull our comps on Zillow. We pull our comps on realquest.com. And we use some apps like LandGlide and Deal Machine is another app where you can look up and see who owns a property and send them out a postcard and pick up the phone and call them right from there. There's so many different sources. I love Upwork.com because you can hire a VA for literally $2 or $3 an hour to do a lot of these tasks that you don't have to do or don't want to do. So there's just so many different resources out there. There's never been a better time to get into real estate that has more tools. But the most important thing I want to tell everyone is don't get bogged down, right? And don't get bogged down in paralysis of analysis, right? You've got to be able to pick a few tools, use one at a time or implement or add one at a time to what you're already doing and start off doing everything yourself. Don't think you have to have the latest gadget or gizmo to get started. All you really need is a motivated seller and a cell phone to get you started.
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely. Well, Larry, what book would you recommend to the listeners and why?
Oh my gosh. Do you mind if I throw out a few?
Please, yeah, the more the merrier.
Lessons from the Richest Man Who Ever Lived by Stephen K. Scott. Lessons from the Richest Man Who Ever Lived. That's a great book. The One Thing by Gary Keller. 4 Disciplines of Execution is another great book. Rhinoceros Success by Scott Alexander is another great book. It's required reading for everyone in our office. If you're looking to scale your business, Traction, the book Traction by Gino Wickman, and the book Rocket Fuel as well are also great books. Man, I could go on and on. The 10X Rule, if you're not first, you're last. There's so many books out there. I've got a huge recommended reading list. I love to read, I love to listen, and I love to learn. Although, I got to tell you, I only have a high school diploma. I don't have a college degree.
Well, you seem like a fairly educated guy, and I think you're doing just fine, so we won't hold it against you there.
Thanks.
Well, Larry, last question we've got for you in the lightning round. If you were to give advice to your 20-year-old self to get started investing in real estate, what would that be?
Just do it now. Do it now, right now. And create passive income early, right? Because so many people, they just want to wholesale, buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell, right? Well, when you're wholesaling, every month you go from hero to zero. You have to start over, right? I mean, you're a young guy and you're buying and holding. And there'll come a time when you don't have to even work anymore because you'll have 100% passive income and you have checks coming in every month. Whether you want them or not, they're showing up, right?
Yeah, that's a good problem to have. And yeah, you're so right there. That passive income is kind of the name of the game here on the Real Estate Way to Wealth and Freedom. So we preach a lot. And so really cool there. Get started early is essentially the summation of your advice there. So yeah, I love it.
Awesome.
Well, Larry, hey, it's been a really fun conversation. I think you've got some really good and unique tips for, those audience members who haven't got yet that first deal, or maybe you're just now getting into the game on how to get started, how to buy that first deal, how to find it, how to negotiate that contract, and then what to do with it once you've got it. So, you're actually no stranger to helping people get started investing in real estate. You have a podcast called the Brain Pick a Pro podcast, along with the Brag Radio Network. So tell us a little bit about that, and also just, give us some places where our audience members can come to check you out, learn more about you, and connect with you if they'd like.
Sure. Well, Brain Pick a Pro is a podcast very similar to yours, where we interview others, and we're getting ready to have you on as well, as you know. And Brag Radio Network, I'm a firm believer in giving back. And our Brag Radio Network, Brag is an acronym for Be Rich and Generous. We want to teach people how to go out and make a lot of money in real estate, but we also want them to be generous with their blessings of time and money and help others. And as far as for some resources, if they want to reach out to me, I mentioned the HUD Book. I'll be glad to give away a copy of the HUD Book. It'll be a free digital version at freehudbook.com. That's freehudbook.com. And also, if they have an interest in the Filthy Riches model, where we're buying these cheap houses and selling them for 3 to 6 times, just go to filthyriches.com, and they'll be able to get a 7-part video training series and sign up for a webinar there that teaches the entire model from start to finish.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we really appreciate that gift, Larry. So that's freehudbook.com for a free ebook around how to find and buy these HUD homes. And then if you're interested in that Filthy Riches program, that's filthyriches.com. Well, hey, Larry, thanks so much for coming on the show today. It's been a lot of fun talking with you.
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, Larry.
Thanks a lot.
That wraps up our episode today with our guest, Larry Goins. Well, what I really like about Larry's take on real estate investing is his systematic approach to generating leads, negotiating deals, making offers, and ultimately buying and selling real estate deals. When you build systems and processes, it allows you to grow and scale your business, which means you are working on your business and not in your business, allowing you to grow your real estate portfolio. So great stuff today, and really appreciate Larry coming on the podcast. Hey, for all those resources that Larry mentioned, including that free HUD Houses book, you can check that out in the link in the show notes. For more information and resources, or to connect with me, you can visit www.jacobayers.com. Now go out there and engineer the lifestyle you want.
You've been listening to the Real Estate Way to Wealth and Freedom podcast, providing you actionable content to build your real estate empire. Nothing on this show should be considered specific, personal, or professional advice. Please consult an appropriate tax, legal, real estate, financial, or business professional for personal advice. The opinions of guests are their own. Information is not guaranteed. All investment strategies have a potential for profit or loss. The host is operating on behalf of the Real Estate Way to Wealth and Freedom, LLC, exclusively.